Thank you very much for inviting me, for giving the opportunity to talk about the burden of gastroenteritis and the opportunity offered by vaccination. Here you have my conflict of interest disclosure. And the purpose of my presentation is to deepen some aspects regarding the epidemiological issues of the disease, such as the burden of gastroenteritis, the main risk factor, and peculiar setting where gastroenteritis is particularly heavy, which is the most common etiology agents, and which opportunities offer new and old vaccination. But perhaps there is a mistake. This meeting was organized by a European society, scientific society, and the focus of this afternoon, also yesterday, is immunization in adults. And it is a very common issue that gastroenteritis is an exclusive issue for developing country among children younger than 5 years, and it's a problem that is resolving because the incidence is decreasing. So the first question is it true? Well, we have the leading 30 causes of death as reported by the Global Burden Disease team and published on Lancet a few months ago, and the change in the last decade. The causes of death are reported in descending order, and you can see also it's reporting the percentage of changes, global death, from 2005 and 2015. The colors of bars reported the contribution of population growth, aging, and change in a specific death rate in defining the global picture of death. So, as you can see, the gastroenteritis is a ninth cause of death, and so it's a major cause of mortality worldwide, but the incidence, well, the mortality is decreasing. As the decreasing of mortality is mainly due to the decreasing of age-specific age rate, while the population growth and the aging show a minimal weight in defining the picture. So is it true that the heavy burden in terms of death is in low and middle-income countries and regard the younger children, but you cannot forget that the heavy burden you have in a developed country, in a high-income country. Well, the passive surveillance system is poor effective in defining the global burden of gastroenteritis in high-income country. And the specific cause of severe gastroenteritis leading to hospitalization, leading to death, is often not characterized, not identified. On your left, you have the result of the surveillance historical publication as a result of a surveillance system performed in the US, reporting the hospitalization rate. And the lack of etiologic diagnosis is clearly confirmed. In fact, the 69% of the discharge are cause unspecified. And the severe gastroenteritis leading to hospitalization is surely more frequently observed in the elderly. But I thought until mid-19, the hospitalization rate due to gastroenteritis was declining. In the last 2 decades, we observe an increase of incidence, an increase of hospitalization, especially in older elderly. As you can see in the last decade, the above-mentioned surveillance system highlight an increase of hospitalization rate from 1.1% to 1.8% in an age group of individuals aged 85 and older, and an increase from 0.8% to 1.1% in the age group between 75 and 84. But the age is a very important risk factor also for death subsequent to gastroenteritis. In another surveillance system study, the the case fatality ratio observed in older elderly is 10-fold higher than observed in young adults. And so the gastroenteritis in adults surely impose a major burden on the patient, also for healthcare system. These results are confirmed all over the world. For example, in this longitudinal cohort study performed in New South Wales, designed to estimate the hospitalization rate and the risk factor associated with hospitalization due to gastroenteritis. The hospitalization rate is 11-fold higher in individual age 55 and older in comparison with young adults, and the cumulative incidence of hospitalization due to gastroenteritis is 1% every year in subject age 65 and older. But age is a very important risk factor also for complication and for hospital stay. In fact, as you can see, the complication rate is twofold higher in older elderly in comparison with young adults. And similarly, the hospital stay, the mean length hospital stay is threefold, I don't know what's happening, threefold higher in older elderly in comparison with adults aged between 15 and 54. Also in this case, the case fatality ratio increased with age, reaching the 62%, very impressive, 6% in subject age 85 and older. And the 90% of deaths due to gastroenteritis is in individuals age 65 and older, which is the most common risk factor associated with hospitalization due to gastroenteritis. Surely the poor self-reported health, the underweight, the obesity, the use of pump-proteonic inhibitors emerged from this study. This has a health risk factor, but also social risk factors play a very important role, such as inadequate family support or social care. It is important, especially for female. Another important question, and which is the etiology of the gastroenteritis, and the gastroenteritis led to hospitalization and determining complication. Here you have the etiology of the outbreak of acute gastroenteritis, a code of the mode of transmission as reported by surveillance system performed in the US. I'm sorry, there is not the value, but I remember that about the 61%, I suppose, 61% of the outbreak were due to person-to-person environmental transmission, mode of transmission, while about the 30% of the outbreaks were due to foodborne and waterborne transmission. It's the lack of the of the etiologic diagnosis reflect also the high percentage of the outbreak that, for that we don't know the mode of transmission. It's about the 10% of all outbreak. As far as the etiology, norovirus play a very relevant role in outbreak with person-to-person environmental mode of transmission. Norovirus was identified in the about the 60% of the person-to-person and environmental outbreaks, corresponding to the 84% of outbreaks with known etiology. And norovirus plays a very important role also in the waterborne outbreak. And as far as the age distribution of the cases, it's noteworthy that out of more than 5,000 outbreaks with information age, about the 60% of the cases were due to were in adults and elderly adults. In this surveillance system, adults and elderly adults is the age class of individual age 49 and older. And as far as the role played by norovirus, the 65% of all cases due norovirus were in adults and elderly adults. But outbreaks occur in different settings. A setting shows a different weight and a different etiological pattern. In the US, 70% of outbreaks occur in long-term facility, but other important settings as the school, as child care facility, hospital, and private home. And norovirus is a most common etiologic agent isolating in outbreak occur in long-term care facilities. The proportion is 66%, but a very similar proportion will be observed also in school and hospital, and also in other settings such as restaurant, camp, office, and hotels. So norovirus play a very important role in the adults and the elderly setting. And as far as the economic evaluation, it's not my field, but I think it's not noteworthy that the median cost for norovirus illness is the highest in the US and in Canada in the oldest group, in the elderly. This is due to the highest productivity losses, but also for the highest health system cost. In Europe, the median cost for norovirus illness is quite similar in the different age class, but in the elderly, you observe the highest health system cost. The picture, the picture of the etiology in long-term care facilities that we describe for the US is quite similar also in Europe. We have a result of surveillance for outbreak of gastroenteritis performed in the elderly long-term facilities in France, and you can see norovirus is the most common etiologic agent, followed by rotavirus. Rotavirus and norovirus account more than 96% of all outbreak reported by this surveillance system. The etiologic picture is quite different in for the gastroenteritis lead to hospitalization. In fact, rotavirus is the second most frequently identified pathogen. For example, the retrospective study performed in Denmark in adult hospitalized for gastroenteritis. And some risk factors that may play a role did not predict the rotavirus gastroenteritis in adults. For example, the close contact to children and travel activity didn't play a role in determining, they are not associated with gastroenteritis due to rotavirus. Another very important aspect is that the peak of rotavirus is in winter. It is contemporary with the peak of flu and the peak of respiratory syncytial virus. It is a very heavy challenge for the health system. Also in this case, the lack of etiology is surely confirmed. For example, in this study, the retrospective study performed in Denmark, the 62% of the cases, the etiologic agent is not recognized. Well, the picture we have described in Europe is confirmed in the US. Is confirmed by active surveillance system in the US. In fact, the reporting the prevalence of rotavirus in the US is the prevalence is range between 3 and 18%. I talk of active surveillance system because also in this case, a passive surveillance system is not able to describe the picture. In fact, rotavirus testing is very infrequently performed in adults, and for example, over a year, the rotavirus-specific ECD code was never used. As you know, rotavirus vaccination is implemented in infants in the US, but in adults didn't represent the target population for the vaccination with a rotavirus vaccine. But there is some evidence, these results are not fully confirmed, but there is some evidence of the indirect protection to older children and adults due to vaccination in infants. in the hospital setting, another very relevant etiological agent of gastroenteritis, especially in antibiotic-associated gastroenteritis, is Clostridium. Clostridium leads to gastroenteritis, but also sepsis and even death. So also in this case, risk factor, a very relevant risk factor is age. The incidence increase with age. But at the epidemiological point of view, it's very relevant, the high rate of asymptomatic carriage. In the not outbreak setting, in the prevalence of positive stool range between 4 and 10%, for example, in the long-term facilities residents. But in outbreak settings, the prevalence of asymptomatic carriage can reach the 50%. It is very important for the transmission. Both passive and active surveillance systems highlighted an increased incidence, but you cannot forget the overestimation mainly due to the increased number of tested patients for Clostridium. Really, we have not a precise extent of Clostridium difficile picture and role in the hospital setting, because we have limited information, mainly due to inadequate laboratory diagnosis and a sense of clinical suspicious. For example, in this survey performed in Europe involving 20 European countries and more than 480 hospital, only the 40% of the hospital use an optimal algorithm and optimal methods for testing the Clostridium infection. It is this result in the 5% of false positive samples, 1.8 false negative samples. More importantly, the 23% of the sample were tested at the National Continental Center using standard methods and were not tested and participating in a hospital. That means that this is due to the absence of clinical suspicion. This results in a very heterogeneity of the results of the incident, also in the diagnosis of Clostridium difficile. For example, here we have a survey performed in the hospital where I work. As you can see, you observe an increase, threefold increase of the number of patients tested, and a sevenfold increase in the incidence of hospital-acquired Clostridium infection in a 5 years period. And as far as the risk of overestimation of the incidence due to the increase of the tested patient, the simultaneous increase in proportion of positive tested patient and the incidence seem to confirm the role of Clostridium as an increasive role of determining healthcare-associated diarrhea. So we have seen together that norovirus, rotavirus, and Clostridium may represent the most common etiological agent in different settings. But they present a different epidemiological picture, a different burden in different settings. So as far as the opportunity offered by vaccination, as I told you, two rotavirus vaccines are worldwide licensed and show a good effectiveness good on-field effectiveness. But the norovirus and Clostridium vaccine candidate are in different vaccine development phases. For example, 3 norovirus vaccines use different approaches, are in preclinical development phases, but more interesting. An intramuscular vaccine candidate contains virus-like particles. Virus-like particle is the same approach used, for example, for human papillomavirus vaccine, successfully used for this vaccine. I say that this vaccine passes a phase 1 in adults. The phase 1 was completed, and nowadays moving into the phase 3. And the vaccine was safe, well tolerated, was immunogenic, and it was observed a good response, a rapid immune response after a single dose. This is very important. It's it's very useful. It makes it a useful tool for the control, for example, of an outbreak. And it's also a useful preventive tool for prevention of gastroenteritis, for example, in military personnel and travelers. So as far as the strategy for norovirus vaccine, you should consider as potential target population both individuals with high risk factors, but also potential super spreader. For example, young children show the highest burden in terms of incident and the highest hospitalization rate, but show also the highest transmission rate. While the elderly and nursing home resident, for example, show the high burden in terms of complication and in terms of fatal disease. Norovirus is a very common cause of diarrhea in travelers, also in the military. As far as immunocompromised patient, usually observe a high incidence of complication, also in a fatal case due to the gastroenteritis of norovirus, but they play also a very important role as a potential super spreader, and in particular, they represent a potential reservoir for new strain. On the other side, healthcare workers and food handlers may play an important role in the transmission, and in particular, they can be implicated in the transmission in patient, and so in vulnerable patient in particular, and in the community respectively. And the rotavirus vaccine is completely different because the first vaccine was licensed 20 years ago. It was withdrawn, as you know, due to association with intestinal intussusception. It's ongoing a trial with a two-dose schedule administered in the first 30 days of life, and the preliminary results show a good effectiveness, good efficacy with a 64 efficacy in the first years of life. But as I anticipated, you have two vaccines. They are worldwide licensed, worldwide distributed, that demonstrate a clear effectiveness. But other approaches are used for other candidate vaccine. For example, we have another reassortant vaccine candidate. It is in phase 1, and it passed phase 1. And another vaccine, a subunit inactivated rotavirus vaccine in early clinical development phase. And finally, different approach were used for the Clostridium vaccine. A formerly inactivated toxoid-based candidate vaccine passes the phase 2. The phase 3 is ongoing, in particular to assess the safety, the tolerability, the efficacy of the vaccine in at-risk patient age 55 and older. And the vaccine containing recombinant toxin domain passes the phase 2 and is planned as a phase 3, while formalin inactivated vaccine passes a phase 2. Other option in early stage of development. So, by epidemiological point of view, we have seen together that passive surveillance system is poor effective in defining the picture, and the etiology of gastroenteritis also in developed country is poorly defined, and the etiology is relatively rarely defined. Age is a very important factor, both in determining hospitalization and in determining complication and death. The hospitalization rate are increasing, especially in the elderly and in the older elderly. And so the gastroenteritis in adults impose a major burden on the patient and all care system, especially in long-term facilities and in the hospital. Which is the main killers? Which is the most common etiologic agent? I propose you a very short, only three agents: norovirus, rotavirus, and Clostridium. Surely there are other, but against three main killers, we have old and new opportunities for the vaccine prevention. Well, as I tell you, the rotavirus vaccine is licensed, but adults do not represent a target population. And for norovirus vaccine and Clostridium vaccine, they are in different phases of preclinical and clinical development. But perhaps the most difficult field, the most difficult issue is that which strategy to implement vaccination against norovirus, rotavirus, and Clostridium. A number of issues are on the floor. First of all, which target population? You should consider elderly and nursing home residents, travelers, military, immunocompromised patients, and also healthcare workers, food handlers that play a very important role in the transmission of this pathogen. Which strategy can you use? An age-based vaccination strategy or a risk group-based vaccination strategy? But we also consider other factors. You deepen some aspects, such as the potential population-level effect of vaccine, the potential cost-effectiveness of vaccination, and also, very importantly, by the ethical point of view, the bridges to developed and developing world markets. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, and very, very clear presentation and excellent time control. Questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Regarding norovirus gastroenteritis and outbreak in long-term care facilities, do you feel that we are the real burden? We have a number, a lot of, but the impact on day care after 1 week, after 2 weeks, what happened to all patients just after? My feeling it's, for some, it's quite crazy, it's okay, it passed very, very fast. And for a kind of others, even in nursing homes, or even in community, in hospital, we had some outbreaks. It becomes difficult, and we have disability, we have some over-complication, over-bacterial complication, etc.
Well, when I say that the etiologic picture is not well defined, but I contrast with my presentation. I show you a number of numbers, a lot of numbers, and you are perfect. I agree with you because the evidence base show that norovirus show not a so high burden in terms of complication in the community, but it's very important. For example, in the mean length of hospital stay, and also in determine lower and lower condition of the patient, in particular for metabolic disease. There is some publications that highlight the role of gastroenteritis, in particular of norovirus, and also rotavirus vaccine in determining a worsen of chronic patient, especially in long-term facilities, because perhaps in hospital there are the facility to immediately respond to the worsen of condition. In long-term facilities there is somewhere the response is not so rapid.